Wisdom from the Bible. Maybe you believe that the Bible is a holy book that's been handed down from God. Or perhaps you think it was written by men and based on ancient scripts. Whatever you believe, most people would agree that there are many, many words of wisdom to be found in the pages of the Holy Scriptures. So in this episode, we'll uncover some of them. Welcome to this biblical episode of
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hello and welcome, especially if you're a new listener to the podcast. My name's Craig.
And my name's Reza.
And with nearly 60 years of teaching between us, Reza and I are going to help you improve your English and take it to the next level. How are you this week, Reza?
Oh, not bad, I must say. I have the odd ache and pain. That's a typical collocation, aches and pains, or ache and pain. I have a few aches and pains because I think I'm just not as young as I used to be. And it's that time of year. We're recording in September, late September, when in this part of the world, we're changing from summer into autumn. And I think it's whenever the weather's changing that if you've got a little bit of arthritis like me, you get little aches and pains. What about you?
You feel it in your bones, don't you?
In the bones,
yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, well, none of us are as young as we used to be. So with the passing of the years, I think that affects a lot of us. But can't complain. Not too bad. I'm feeling okay.
And what's wrong with being old, by the way? For it says in the good book, honor thy father and mother, that their years be long on this earth.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with being old.
It's
better.
Says
so in the good book.
It's better than the alternative. First this week, we've got a voice message from friend of the show, Nacho from Spain.
Hi, Greg and Reza. This is Nacho from Spain. I burned the midnight oil thinking about the voice message because defining happiness feels as difficult as finding a needle in a haystack. To quote on embracing reality really stayed with me. George Orwell said happiness can only exist in acceptance. And Gandhi reminded us that happiness is when what you think, say and do are in harmony. In October, I will defend my postgraduate project in family and inheritance law called The Digital Will. Now I hope to contact you and perhaps join an English group to scale up to the next level. Here is my question. When life gets really busy, how do you protect that harmony? Any practical tip to keep choices and values in step? Thanks again for another thoughtful episode and for all your teaching.
Well, Nacho, thank you very much for your message and for your question. Now, Nacho was talking about a podcast we did recently on happiness. It was comments on how to be happy, 16 quotations about happiness. And you can listen to that episode by going to inglespodcast.com/588. I really liked a couple of expressions that Nacho used. He said he's been burning the midnight oil, which means staying up late, staying up probably past midnight and thinking about this. And he also used another nice idiom, a needle in a haystack is when something is really difficult to find or locate. You can say, for example, finding my keys in my messy room is like searching for a needle in a haystack. Any comments, Reza?
Yes, that was a very good message, Nacho, and a very deep question. Wow. When life gets really busy, how do you protect that harmony? Oh, no, that's a good question. If I truly knew the answer, I think I'd have written a book and I'd be a very rich man now. I don't know. Any suggestions, Craig?
Well, it's about work-life balance, isn't it? And the day is finite. The day has a finite and limited number of hours. There are 1,440 minutes in a day. And on average, Europeans, people in Europe, live about 81.7 years. So we only have 980 months of life if we're going to live a natural life. And there's a limit to what you can fit and squeeze into that restricted time. So maybe, just an idea, maybe, natural, we need to accept that there isn't enough time to do everything we want to do. So you need to prioritize what is important for you. Is it health? Is it spending time with family, friends, and relationships? Maybe, as many people do grow old and they're getting close to death, maybe we should think that what people realize at the end of their life is not that they wish they had worked harder or that they wish they had earned more money. What people usually say at the end of their life is, I wish I had spent more time with people I love. So it's prioritizing. Maybe that's the secret. What do you think, Reza?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's about spreading the love around. Spreading the love around, I think. Easier said than done. I say it, but do I do it myself? Probably not as much as I would. But the older I get, the more I realize, yeah, that's what it's about. Enjoying quality, meaningful human relationships. That's what it's about. There's no other point for me on being on Earth, really. A lot of people, to answer this question, turn to the Bible, of course, to look for harmony, to look for happiness, to look for the meaning of life itself and why we're here. The Bible's a pretty good book. There are others. Some might look to the Quran and similar books. Some might look to the teachings of the Buddha, etc. But the Bible's not a bad place to start to find out about the ideals of harmony and happiness. Would you agree, Craig?
I would agree, although that isn't necessarily reflected in our first quote of wisdom from the Bible, which is an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. What does that mean? Does that mean that if we do that, we're all going to be blind and toothless?
You could interpret it that way, yes. But I guess the more general meaning of that is whatever wrongdoing, that's all one word, by the way. Wrongdoing is something wrong that has been done to someone. Whatever wrongdoing someone perpetrates, carries out, will be perpetrated against them in revenge. In other words, if you injure someone in the eye, if you take someone's eye out, don't be surprised if they take your tooth out.
Or take your eye out.
Or take your eye out. And then you take a tooth, they'll take your tooth, whatever. You're all, as Craig said, you will end up eyeless and toothless.
Later, we're going to look at a similar biblical expression that is turn the other cheek. So I don't quite see how an eye for an eye, a tooth to a tooth goes together with turn the other cheek. Doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it doesn't, but there's a thing, isn't it? We're talking about the Bible. There's the Old Testament and there's the New Testament, the two halves of the Bible. And this, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, is very much Old Testament. In the Old Testament, the older parts of the Bible, because the Bible is really a book of books. In the older books of the Bible, there's a lot more on more old-fashioned things like revenge and punishment and rules. Whereas the New Testament, the later books, tend to focus more on forgiveness and that type of thing.
It's more woke, isn't it, the New Testament?
It is a bit, yeah.
Politically correct. The next expression is cast the first stone. To cast is to throw. So don't judge or punish other people if you have done wrong yourself. Back in biblical times, in the times of the Bible, if somebody had committed a crime, punishment was stoning. So you threw stones at someone until they were very badly injured or even dead. So don't throw the first stone because maybe you are also guilty of having done something wrong.
Well, really, to put it into context, maybe we should add the preceding bit, which is, let he who is free of sin cast the first stone. Let he who is free of sin cast the first stone. That's the full version.
So no one's perfect.
So Jesus was saying, if you are free of sin, you can throw the first stone. Go ahead. But are you free of sin? No, you're not. We've all sinned.
Sometimes my wife says to me, that person is really strange. They're really weird. They behave in a very weird way. And I say to her, well, so do we. I mean, we're really...
You're a couple of weirdos.
We're a couple of weirdos. We're very strange people. So no one's perfect.
And by the way, if you're talking about your neighbors, is that a good thing? Is it not said that you should love your neighbor as yourself?
Just be kind to treat other people in the way that you want to be treated. Actually, my neighbour's a bit of a pain in the neck, so I don't think. I hope they're not listening to the podcast. Love your neighbour as yourself. Yeah. So do to others that you would like them to do to you.
What about this one, Craig? The truth will set you free. How would you interpret that one?
Be honest. Don't tell lies. Notice it's tell lies, not say lies. Don't tell lies. Be honest, because if you're being honest, that can help you to feel safe and happy and set you free. I agree with that 100%. I discovered years ago that I'm a terrible liar. I always get caught when I tell lies. So it's better to be honest. Much easier.
Another very Old Testament. Remember, we spoke about the Old and the New Testament. We started off with an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, about how revenge ends badly. Another similar Old Testament piece of wisdom is this one. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Which means if you live by violence, in other words, you're using a sword to kill people. If you live by violence, you will die through violence. Live by the sword, die by the sword.
That's got a lot of wisdom to it, and we've been fighting and killing each other since the Bible, and nothing really has changed very much, but maybe we should learn some words of wisdom and stop killing each other. Speaking of which, the next one is one we've mentioned already, turn the other cheek. So if someone hits you or hurts you, forgive them. Just turn the other cheek. Don't respond. Don't retaliate. Don't take revenge. Don't fight back. But what do you think, Rezo? I think that has its limits, because at some point I think we have to defend ourselves. We have to stand up for ourselves and fight back.
I think of all the Bible quotations or pieces of wisdom, this is the hardest of all to put into practice. So you've got
But is it logical to put it into practice? It might be the most difficult, but does it make sense to you?
In certain circumstances, it depends. Where's the limit? If someone is genuinely sorry for what they've done, yes, turn the other cheek. Don't fight back. Forgive them if they genuinely regret what they've done, is my opinion. But if they haven't, no, take revenge. Sorry, I'm all for revenge. If that person genuinely isn't sorry for what they've done, I'm not going to turn the other cheek. I'm going to defend myself. That's me. What about you?
Absolutely. No, I mean, if someone breaks into my house and maybe they have a weapon, a knife or something, and I think my family's in danger, then I would pick up a baseball bat and I would defend them. I wouldn't just turn the other cheek. So I think there's some situations in which we have to stand up for ourselves and defend ourselves.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think the Bible, particularly taken out of context, it can be misleading. It's you have to read it in context. And I'm sure that the context of this, turn the other cheek, makes it clear that there are certain circumstances when you could do it, but not always. But that's the thing. People take quotations and wisdom out of context, and then it can be just stupid.
Let's take a quick break here, because I know you listen to this podcast to take your English to the next level. But what about your speaking? Is your fluency improving? Are you happy with your speaking skills? My conversation course focuses on making you a more confident and more fluent English speaker. You'll join me and a small group of motivated students And we'll meet on Zoom and have topical discussions, role plays, debates, and presentations that will expand your vocabulary and help you express yourself effectively in English. So be proactive and take the first step towards becoming a confident and fluent English speaker. Send me an email today to craig@inglespodcast.com and I'll send you details of the next online conversation course. Thanks for listening. Now let's get back to the podcast. Our next biblical quotation is, "Man shall not live by bread alone." What does that mean, Reza?
Well, I totally agree. You need butter on that bread.
You need some butter. You need some bacon in the middle.
Bacon, cheese, nice pate. Yeah, bread alone is not enough. No, of course, it doesn't really mean that. We're taking it out of context on purpose to be silly. It means that people need more than food. So the word bread here represents food, sustenance in general. You also need love, faith, purpose, that type of thing. Just eating, surviving, going through the motions of staying alive is not enough. You need the spiritual side of life.
And maybe a little bit of Spanish ham as well.
Yes, that will definitely work. A bit of olive oil, tomato, rastreado, yeah.
The next one is faith can move mountains. Faith can move mountains, which means if you believe in something strongly, that can help you to achieve difficult things. That might not necessarily mean religious faith, although it could do, but maybe you have a lot of faith in your abilities, you have a lot of self-confidence, so that could help you to achieve your goals and get through difficult times. Do you think faith has its limits?
Faith in God or faith in general?
Faith in general.
Yes, faith in general, I think, has its limits. If it's faith in a spiritual God, no, there should be no limits. But if it's faith in other things, yeah, there are limits. For example, imagine I'm married and I find my wife at home naked with a man who's naked coming out of my doorway, and I say, "Oh, what have you been doing?" She said, "Yes, we were both very, very hot. We were checking the air conditioning, so we had to take our clothes off." That requires a lot of faith to believe that that's the real reason behind that. I would be suspicious. Faith there isn't. I don't know if I could believe that. You know what I'm saying?
Gives a new meaning to turn the other cheek, doesn't it?
Yeah. So religious faith, yeah, but faith in general, I do think has its limits. Yeah. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. I mean, there are some stories in the Bible that does require a lot of faith in religion, in God. For example, turning water into wine, Moses parting the Red Sea in the Old Testament, the Ten Commandments being delivered by God and passed down from Mount Sinai in the Old Testament. Is it the feeding of the 5,000 or 10,000?
5, is it? I think so, yeah.
So those miracles require a lot of faith.
What about this one, Craig? Pride goes before a fall. How do you interpret that?
That's hubris, isn't it? Hubris, being too proud, that could lead to failure. So isn't pride one of the deadly sins?
That's right, yes.
Pride. So don't be too proud. Don't let your ego become too big, because that could lead you to fall or to fail. Well, our next one is, "Blessed are the meek." And the full quotation is, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." So first of all, Reza, how would you describe a meek person, and what does that really mean?
Not the sort of person who shouts about how they go to church every week and are going to go to heaven. That's not meek. They might tell you that it is, but it's not. A meek person is a person who is humble and gentle, not a person who says, "I go to church, I'm right, and if you believe in abortion, you should be arrested." They've got the wrong idea there. Meek is a person who's simply humble and happy with what they've got. And as it clearly says in the Bible, they shall inherit the earth. Meek, humble people what some people, even famous leaders, would call losers, are actually the most favored people in the entire Bible, those so-called losers. And the people who think they're winners ought to read again the bit about pride goes before a fall. But in reality, it doesn't work that way. And the people who haven't read the bit about pride goes before a fall have also not understood the bit about blessed are the meek. The humble, the gentle people, people who haven't stood out, people who haven't asked for attention, they're the ones that God likes, not the winners, so to speak. One of my favorites, I would put that in my top 3, maybe my top 1. So my top 1, the most important piece of wisdom there is in the Bible. Blessed are the meek. And it really bothers me that the Christian church has been hijacked by people, in my opinion, who don't get that these days. It's something that bothers me a lot.
Yeah, but how's it going for the meek these days, though? It does seem to me that the people in power, the people who are being rewarded, are not the meek. They are the people who are the opposite of being meek. They're the people who are controlling, who are rich, who have the power. So they don't seem to be inheriting much, unfortunately.
Unless you believe in heaven, because then the super rich aren't going there.
But it doesn't say heaven, it says the earth. They will inherit the earth.
Well, yeah, but it refers to when the day of judgment comes. That's what it refers to. We could also talk about it's easier to get a camel through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to enter the gates of heaven. It's clearly stated in the Bible as well. I'm not sure mega multi-billion donors to Christian causes that they haven't studied that bit very well either. I'm not sure.
I must say, I'm very impressed by your biblical knowledge. You know a lot of quotations.
This is the tip of the iceberg. Believe me, mate. Believe me. I know my Bible.
Is that in the Bible, the tip of the iceberg?
No.
Our next one is the wages of sin is death. Sin we've spoken about before. Doing something evil, doing something bad, the opposite of good, sinning. And the wages, the money or the reward of doing bad things or sinning is death. So doing anything wrong leads to bad results, which sounds a lot to me like karma. What goes around comes around, doesn't it?
Yeah. The next one was one that Craig found, and I must admit, it's the one and only one which I didn't know. So I've learned a bit. Maybe I don't know the Bible as well as I thought. And it's out of the mouths of babes. And Craig, you reckon the meaning of that is children can sometimes speak the truth in a simple way?
Yeah, they don't have any social filters. They drop truth bombs. If you drop a truth bomb, then you say something that's very honest and very truthful and very obvious. And I think children tend to be that way, don't they? They just tend to say what they see and they say what they feel, and they don't have any filters, any of these social norms that adults get as we grow up. We tend to lose innocence as we get older.
Mm-hmm. I'd certainly agree with that. I hadn't heard that one before, but I would definitely agree with that. Another one which I like is seek and ye shall find. What on earth is ye? Well, it's just a funny way of saying you. So why did I say it? Am I trying to be funny? Quite the opposite. I'm trying to sound biblical. So the Bible being obviously a very old book, well, 2 books, as we said, the Old and the New Testament, although the older one is much older than the newer one, but they got put together. In the Bible, they like to use archaic, old-fashioned kind of vocabulary because it gives a certain gravity, a certain seriousness. So you will find use of the words such as ye, which sounds a lot more serious, a lot more spiritual than just saying you. But you could say, seek and you shall find, which means if you look for truth or help, you'll find it. All you got to do is look. What do you think, Craig?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I think that's quite logical and straightforward. If you look for truth and help, you'll find it, especially if you look in the right place. The next one is you cannot serve 2 masters, meaning you can't focus on 2 opposite things at the same time. Maybe that means multitasking. Maybe that means you can't work too many hours and also be with your family for enough time. So maybe that is about work-life balance. What do you think?
I don't think so. I think it's pretty much the same as thou shalt have no other God but me. I think it means the same as that. I think it tends to go together with that. You cannot serve two masters. I think is a reference to only God, the creator, Jehovah, if you like, is the boss. And there's no other.
The next one is the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. If something is willing, then they are enthusiastic about something that they say, yes, we're going to do it. So the spirit wants to do it. It's willing to do it, but the flesh is weak. How do you interpret that, Reza?
I think it means that you may want to do good, but sometimes your body or perhaps your habits, the way you live, stop you. And I guess taking it a step further, it means, but you should do it anyway. Don't be held back by your body, by your habits, by your thinking. Follow your spirit. I think that's what it's really getting at. Would you agree?
Yeah, especially when you get old. I mean, I sneezed yesterday and I hurt my back. So I think sometimes you want to do things, but your body doesn't let you. What's the last one, Reza, on the list?
We got one more, which is the one which is really popular amongst a lot of people these days, which is God helps those who help themselves.
That sounds like you have to be selfish.
Does sound a bit like that. That's why I say it's so popular in the 21st century, sadly. It means be proactive rather than passive when you want something to happen. But hold on. Didn't we just say not long ago at all, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth? Yeah, there's quite a few contradictions in the Bible, aren't there? Hold on. So, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. We said, be humble, be gentle, that's good. And now we're saying, God helps those who help themselves. Don't be too humble, don't be too meek, be proactive. You'll find a lot of contradictions in the Bible, let's be honest.
Maybe it means be proactive in your English studies. Sign up for my conversation course, do something, and then you will improve your English. So, you got to help yourself. And now it's your turn to practice your English. Are there any words of wisdom from either the New Testament or the Old Testament or any religion that you follow? Perhaps you would like to add to our list any words of wisdom that could help us and help the listeners. What other things can we learn from holy books? How can people reach out, Reza?
The best way we think is to send us a voice message. You can leave your audio message at speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast. There's a link in the show notes if you want to follow that. But Craig, I guess there's going to be some people who want to write. How can they get in touch?
Yes, send your emails to me with your comments and questions. I'm Craig, Craig, @inglespodcast.com. And to contact Reza, write to belfastreza@gmail.com. Those addresses, the links, everything, including the quotations we've spoken about today, are in the show notes. As usual, go to inglespodcast.com/594.
If you're a Spanish speaker and you want to improve your English with either free or paid resources, why not visit the Mansión Inglés website? The address is mansioningles.com. And for specifically paid products, you could also browse the online store, and you'll find that at store.mansioningles.net.
And we don't want to say goodbye to you today without thanking our lovely Patreon supporters who help to keep this podcast going. And you too can join our Patreon program. And by doing so, you get instant access to the transcriptions of the podcasts, so you can read every word that we say. And you're also invited to a live Zoom chat every month so that you can practice your speaking. Go to patreon.com/inglespodcast for more information.
As always, a big thank you to every single one of our Patreon sponsors. We'd like to say all your names, but we haven't got time. So we'll do what we always do, and we will mention the names of our most recent sponsors who've joined this month, and they are Sonia and Manuel del Olmo. A big thank you to you two, but also to all our Patreon supporters.
Yes, thank you very, very much. Now, we don't know what we're speaking about yet in next week's podcast, but we do promise there will be one. So please send us your ideas and your suggestions. And until next time, thank you for listening. It's goodbye from me.
And it's bye-bye from me.
If you enjoyed this podcast, why not tell a friend so that more people can listen to us? And the music this week is by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.